Italian Football Podcast.
The bigger picture here, Nima, is, and we have to talk about this, is that Saudi Arabia, this is a paradigm shift in football.
It is.
Right now. And it's not just Milinkovic-Savic, it's Pogba as well. There have been reports that, Paul Pogba visited Saudi Arabia over the weekend. He was asked, is he moving to Saudi Arabia? In a clip that you can see, it's on social media. And he said, who knows? Now, no. Today, no. Tomorrow, we don't know. And then he was asked if he would join Al-Ittihad or Al-Ahly. And he replied, I don't know, we'll see. This could have just been him, he just didn't want to talk. I don't know. But, there are lots of reports. Gazzetta are saying that an intermediary met with an intermediary from the Saudi Arabian clubs, met with his agent Rafaela Pimenta, and to discuss his future, and that will play out of course.
For Juve, this is like winning the lottery. They're getting a 30-year-old that they signed on a free transfer. Even if they get just 10 million euros for him, which I'm sure they won't, they'll get more. Yeah. But even if they just get 10 million,
financially, it will be. He's a huge burden on their accounts.
His wages are massive. They sign him on a free transfer. They sell him a year later for it's all capital gains. This time not fictitious, but actual ones. And they offload his wages, and they get a player who, my opinion about this. I think he's finished at this level. I don't think he can play at this level again. I think, and not that I think it's a physical issue with him. His body just can't do it.
He can't even play for 5 minutes without pulling the muscle.
It's that's such a sad thing to see, because I think I think especially for France when they won the World Cup, I thought that midfield was so good, and he was such an integral part of that. But no, it's. So
we'll see what happens with Pogba.
For Juve, this is like winning the lottery.
For Juve, it's. I think deep down, I think Juventus would definitely want it. Pogba, Romeo Agresti we had on the show last week or the week before, and he said that Pogba wants to stay at Juventus. He wants to prove himself and try and make a success of it. But that's what Pogba wants. That isn't necessarily what Juventus want. I think look, let's watch this space. Let's see how this develops.
I think it could happen. If Juve if they were to make a good offer to Juve around, I don't know, minimum 25-30 million euros, Juve will bite that hand, bite their hands. They'll snap it off
for sure. But the bigger picture here is Saudi Arabia is the Saudi Arabian Pro League is changing football
completely.
There is $20 billion to invest into football between now and the World Cup's definitely going to go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, 2034 is the target, because they pulled out of 2030. No, they pulled out of that bid, didn't they? That combined bid was...
I don't think so.
They did. The 2030 bid they pulled out of, It's 2034.
Is that official?
I checked that. It was 2030 they've pulled out.
Okay.
But 2034 is the one that they want to go for. They want that bid, and I think it gives them about 10-11 years to build up something, and they're going to invest heavily in football, not just now, because again, Saudi is not Qatar. Saudi is a big country with a huge population, and it's a football mad country, and they have football history and football culture, and this is just they essentially want to be what the Premier League is and what the Serie A was, but in Asia, in the Middle East. They want to export their domestic club football like that.
Four Saudi clubs, Al-Ittihad, Al-Ahly, Al-Nassr and Al-Hilal, they've been transformed basically into companies that are owned by the PIF, and that's who owns the sovereign fund that owns of Saudi Arabia, that owns Newcastle, and also has massive shares in Chelsea as well. Now, that, like I said, $20 million. It's just insane. And obviously, this has a big effect on Italian clubs in the sense that they can come over to Serie A and buy Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. They can buy Pogba. They can buy.
Well, they can do it to the Premier League as well. I mean, there's talk of Bernardo Silva. I mean, there's talk of there's lots of they're going to do that. They're going to build their domestic football up, and they're going to do it their way. So this is just, when you have a completely deregulated market and you build it on big fish eating small fish, there's always a bigger fish, and the Premier League compared to Saudi is not the biggest fish because they can pay. They can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want, and no one can stop them. So this is just a continuation, like I said a couple of weeks ago, of things set in motion decades ago.
Yeah, I think the big change within football here is that the impact this has on UEFA. We talk about it on the pod. I mean, football is, I don't want to use the word dead. I use that word, football is dead. I used that term about 14 years ago, I remember. But, you look at what UEFA hasn't made the changes that were required. They would have been protected to an extent from a new player like Saudi Arabia if they'd have made the changes to football that were needed, that we've been crying out as fans, and they've never done that. I mean, players, we know,
they weren't interested.
Footballers earn too much money. Agents take too much money, out of the game. Young players, been taken advantage of, certainly from the smaller countries. They've allowed state ownership to happen in football, which should never been allowed to happen. There should never be any state ownership be permitted in football. Fan ownership, that hasn't been possible in this type of football. The differences and disparity between leagues has got larger and larger and larger and larger, to the extent where we're in this ridiculous situation now where teams like Nottingham Forest are spending more in a transfer window than the entirety of Serie A, which is just an absolute joke. And the difference in TV revenue between Premier League and all the other leagues, and the financial fair play rules and how they've been a joke. Impossible to make a salary cap.
They've not even tried it. That's the thing. I mean, they've not tried to do any of these things.
They've made no attempt to make it a level to make rules in football and to make it competitive. And it's so imbalanced, football now. And people like us are we're fed up of it. And our heart is still there because we grew up with it. But it's sad to see what happens. Well, they've created a vacuum where Saudi Arabia can come along and basically do what they want and spend like mad.